Our state fair is a great state fair. Don't miss it, don't even be late. It's dollars to don't.
Creative Activity Center at the Minnesota State Fair 2012. There's a lot of wood carvings and other art in there. Each of these little glass containers has a different subject in which different art. You can see that there's usually a quilt behind. Show the different art depending on, this is sort of the Minnesota display here. There's a nice wood carving right there. There's another Minnesota state flower.
Yeah, and look at that fish. Was that a real fish?
I believe it's carved in wood. And there's the some of the quilts. I do like taking pictures of some of the quilts to add to my quilted Santas, different types of pattern. Some painting. Porcelains. Some here sort of a western theme. Nice little wood carving down here. Over here is the Halloween. Keep looking for the wood carvings. I got one over here that didn't do well. Here's my witch. Those enter under human figures. There's earrings. I entered that under beads. Can I get into focus there? Again, looking over the quilts. Some nice little quilt patterns on my Santas. I like to see different, even though they don't have the same color, you know, the red, green, and white. You use some of these patterns and plus I can spend all day here, so I better move on. This is kind of a farm display here. Carvings here. Over here is a sort of shallow relief, right? A more deep relief. There's a nice intarsia.
There was one person.
Where?
And here's just a simple wood building. There might be some carving involved. Oops, let's get down there. There's a nice intarsia. This is sort of this dog and cat or dog. There's one up there. Over here is the nativity. I have a simple nativity set here. Didn't do very well. I was kind of ill prepared. This is under the multiple figure category. I wasn't too prepared, and well, I think I'm still happy with it. It's a little maybe stagnant, but it's still just a quick, easy. And here's somebody did a sort of an artistic version of the nativity. And there, of course, is a good, interesting nativity quilt. That's a nice little nativity display. There's some interesting wood turning. Bowl making wood turning. Very interesting quilt. This is a display in which shows different crafts. This one is the Midwest Miniature Guild. They're miniatures. Not much wood carving there, but I think it's very interesting. There's the gypsies. There's the list of winners. It's always fun to see my name up there, and not fun to see my name up where I believe it should be. We're going to get more into the animals, and before we do, we got some more wood turning. There's a good stick right there. Nice wood carved frame. I think that's a wood carved clock, I believe. I don't think that's in Tarsha. I think that's all wood carved. Yeah, I think it's the right time. 9:14 in the morning. Building's just opened up. There's a nice animal display right there. Bowls and wood turning. Wood burning, I mean. Animals. Birds, actually, in this case. More sticks, walking sticks. This one has got a nice bureau on it. Handle. It's a nice grouse. So there's a lot of wood burning in there. There we go. That's better. It's a well-deserved blue ribbon. Let's swing around here. There's an interesting wood burning.
I found a picture of it.
Wood burning and painting. There's the hawk.
Oh, that's great too. Look at that.
There's the fish display. Well, fish and water birds. A stylized version there. A couple of water birds. Loon, Minnesota state bird. A number of loons here. That's a nice piece right there. Let's get around there and take a look at that. Go up to the loom, another loom. Wood burning loom. I believe that's all wood burn. I don't think there's hardly any color in it. Just all wood burn. Natural and wood burn, I believe. Of course, I still gotta throw this in here. That's an interesting display. Antique fish lures. Here's some more wooden birds. A wren. Chickadees in the background. There's some black-eyed Susans, I think. Or daisies, I don't know. Stylized. And up here we have some wood burning painting.
Gee, that sounds like it's going to be fun.
There's a nice wood burning.
It's October 1st, but your room's gone.
Sort of a patriotic display. Swing back over to the birds again. Here's some more birds. It's a nice little songbird right there. Let me zoom in on that. There we go. It's always good to see other people's work.
Here's Mama.
Beautiful work. This is a big display showing the Minnesota woods. Oops. As a matter of fact, the middle one, the wood duck, that's my wife Lynn's. Got a third in waterfowl category, and that's a big category too.
I just cannot imagine putting something that teeny and you wouldn't like 1 row.
Just got to look up, got to see this. Too bad there's too much reflection. That is a nice quilt right there. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to get the reflection on. Jeez, I gotta pull back in order to get the whole thing. Oops. Okay, let's zoom in on it. You can see that it is a quilt. Zoom back just to try to get a. You can't get all that in. That's a good, nice quilt. It's a nice autumn quilt. More wood burning. Hard to get there without the reflection. Some wood burrow work. Some interesting, I think it's birdhouse display, birdhouse category. I mean, it's not wood carving, it's wood, and it's very interesting. Here's another one here on this side. So, there might be a little bit of carving in there, but bird feeder. Here's the Native American display. Really nice stuff here. I know the gentleman who carved that. He's in our club. And got a red on it. And then there's my Indian corn, which I just carved and put on YouTube. See, it didn't get anything. I guess they don't understand caricature. Here's a nice little intarsia. Got blue. Beautiful. Swing this around so we can see it a little better. Well, this is an interesting display of like babies and here's Carve. They kind of got, I don't know, unless they're kind of embarrassed to have it out, but still wanted to display it. I was looking down at something, I don't know what the heck. And over here is it's another carving from one of the guys from our club. Told me the story that he had to carve that without the wife knowing it because that's going to be her Christmas present. Now the question is it Christmas past or Christmas coming, so I shouldn't say anything. Here's the Christmas display. I got a lot of my Santas. Get over there. All the Christmas quilts. Kind of stiff up, and there's a nice Christmas runner. And here's one of mine.
I know a girl that worked on that. That's your log cabin block.
Yeah.
And that takes forever.
All of these are mine. Let me zoom in here. There we go. We got a blue on this gentleman. Got a red on this guy. I'm kind of disappointed with this one. There's, I think you recognize as Ralphie from the Christmas Story. Oops. Only got a pink for him. And there's one Lynn carved. Very good. Beautiful piece. And here's this is simple Sean Sipa that I've done. This one was under the category of painting, actually painting wood freestanding. And I guess the category got disqualified as, I don't know, because I always get a blue and a red in that division, and here I got nothing. In fact, I can't even find that division on the premiums list anymore. And take a look at the quilt too. Just like the lady said, this is a log cabin. This is one of my favorite quilts to put on a Santa. And so that's my Christmas. This is one of my favorite displays. It's a Scandinavian display here. Got a few pieces in there. Got a red on my pie lady there. And there's a couple of
Look at the gnomes and stuff.
and here's one that got a big award. Viking. See all the rosemary painting. Oh, where'd the Viking go? Oh, there it is. And then there's my Viking, but the wing got broken off. I wonder if it didn't get anything because the wing got broken off.
But your dad.
And there's the, how do you pronounce it, manga board?
You're fine.
Beautiful rose mauling. There's another. I have to get in there and look. Love the rose mauling from Minnesota, and we're mostly Scandinavian, German background. sort of a mystical display, fairies and so on, and a couple of, oops, let's get down there. A couple of known homes. Nice one right there. Another. That's an interesting display of the other house, but that is in ceramic. And there's a 12-foot. And there is one of mine. Actually, that's a Sean Sipa pattern. And I entered that into painting as well. And again, it got nothing because, I don't know, I don't know, like it disappeared or something. You don't see it on the list. So who got one? I always get a blue or a red ribbon every year. And there's a nice gnome house. Kind of buried for a blue ribbon carve. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Look at some of the detail. There's some more turn.
Jake had one because
I think that's just an ostrich egg, I think. We come up here. Now, I don't know if that is. Let me get kind of in here. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Let me focus on that there. Is that tramp art or is that chip art? That's chip art.
I did one of these for Bob and Claudia's wedding.
Yep. Still white or is it black?
And here's another farming display. Has a couple of wood carvings. Like one of mine are in there. Also zoom in on my harvest angel. I'm trying to get it so there's no light in the background. No, there we go. A little harvest angel. And here is
Pretty cool.
nice little plain carving, which won the American Swedish Institute Award this year, which I won last year. Didn't get it again this year. It's sort of a farming kind of our community, kind of oh, can't see it. What am I looking at? Oh, there, see, I'm looking right at it. There is Minnesota Gothic. All the other displays.
I'm ready for some of these.
Cookies and breads and jams and all at the Creative Activity Center. Here we got some chainsaw carving from our chainsaw booth, or whatever you want to call area.
School starts up next week. Yeah, you gotta be really careful, that's for sure.
Oh, that's better. Freshly harvested chainsaw.
Who's your favorite guy?
The advantage.
No, I mean, didn't both of you already have a chance? Yeah, let's make sure someone else has a chance. You have some.
Perfect smile.
A little bit of burning on it.
Awesome, Liam. Here, big boy. Nice buffalo. Let's go see some on the nose. Hey guys, look at this eagle.
Bear stuck in the log.
The other bear stuck in the log.
Oh, where is he? I can't see it. Oh, there he is.
Check out what this one is. Eagle's fighting there. Where's this guy? An eagle? That's the eagle fighting over a fish. Wait, do we want to turn around now or that way?
Oh, that's a nice piece right there.
Let's see the picture, bud.
Oh yeah, I saw a picture of him.
You know what, Carve? There was someone that was making something
Kind of sort of native wood carving type of thing in Minnesota, it's more like wolves and raccoons. There's a buffalo without somebody on it. Well, somebody's going to get on it pretty soon here.
Isn't that beautiful?
Come here. Melissa, Dad, come here.
Not supposed to be on it.
Yay.
Oh. Jump on.
Picture took.
Here we go. Got it.
Dress on my bike.
Yeah, you can go with me.
Here we are in the horticulture area building, Christmas tree part. Sorry, I'm gonna throw this in. Well, it's wood. I guess it's a Santa Carver. I just got it. I mean, it just smells like Christmas. Holy smoke, it smells like Christmas. Oh, does it smell like Christmas? I know, it's only August. Just a little run through. The Christmas trees. And here's a bowl maker lathe, old-fashioned lathe, Scandinavian. We'll come back later and see him in action. See at the bottom there, that stick he pushes down on the stick, it goes around this, around that round part and goes up and springs up and down. He does that by hand. His work so far. We'll come back when he's back in the shop. And here's a more up-to-date version of a lathe. And a knife sharpener. I think I can get a couple of carving knives and chisels on there.
Keeping these tools sharp is a pretty important part of this kind of work.
Where did this originate?
Well, it's hard to say where. The earliest turned objects found on Earth were found in England and dated to 2000 BC. So it's hard to say whether that was where this originated or not. It's just the objects that have been found there. It just happens to be the oldest ones. But it is known that those pieces that were found in 2000 BC were not rough caveman pieces. They were sophisticated, well-turned, well-executed pieces. So it's assumed by historians and archaeologists that the trade is much older than that.
Yeah.
So who knows? It evolved separately all over the world, different places at different times. So, without any, it just kind of makes sense.
Just like a lot of good inventions.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, lots of different ways that there's a tradition of this in Japan and in China and all over Africa. And every continent except for North and South America. The pre-Columbian wooden bowls were all carved rather than turned.
Okay.
So there was never a tradition of turning in North America. But otherwise, all over the world, lots of different methods and stuff. The earliest depiction, the earliest picture of somebody doing this found on Earth is dated to 300 BC. So that's the earliest picture of the tool itself. And then from then on, you start more and more often you see depictions of people using lathes exactly like this. Reciprocating lathes with either a winder like this or a 15-foot long springy pole work just as well.
Oh, so then.
Yeah, I've got some illustrations over here of other setups, and using that 15-foot long pole does the same thing. It's a little. This is the system I use in my studio. I've got a concrete floor in my studio, so it's easier to set this system up. I can't, pound a stake into the concrete floor.
Looks like your tools are homemade.
Well, yeah, you can't buy them anywhere, so you gotta make them.
Yeah.
They don't sell those at Menards?
No,
Thought I saw something like that in the Menards in the lathe section. I'm not sure.
It was just a broken tool.
Yeah. No, I make my own pretty much. Blacksmith who's over here this week's makes a few tools for me now and then, but in general I make my own. I've got my own forge and anvil and the whole setup. What kind of wood do you use? This is birch. I use several different types of wood. They all have similar characteristics to this. All the maples work well, all the different varieties of maple, all the different varieties of birch, cherry wood. The thing they all have in common is that they have a real even grain. So woods like oak and ash and walnut don't work very well because they have more of an open grain and the wood just tears out more rather than cuts real cleanly. So you need wood that's got a real even grain and that's fairly hard. The softer woods don't work either. They don't cut very cleanly either. And it's fresh green wood. Use green wood for this kind of work because you couldn't get a piece of wood big enough to make a bowl dry without it already being cracked. This kind of work is always done with green wood.
The bowl's not going to crack now that you use green wood?
So I'll turn the walls of the bowl to an even thickness, and that thickness is fairly thin. So then as the wood dries, it dries at an even rate because it's turned to an even thickness. And then as the wood dries, it shrinks, and it'll shrink at an even rate and not crack. That's how it works. The reason wood cracks is because of differential shrinkage. So if I were to let this piece of wood dry, because it's so thick at this point, the surface would dry. As wood dries, it shrinks. So if the surface dries, the surface shrinks, but beneath the surface where it's not exposed to the air, it's not drying and it's not shrinking. Therefore, the surface shrinks, something's got to give, and the wood would crack. So I keep it wet while I'm doing this. I put the wood in buckets of water. I've got a bucket back here. I drip wood on it. I wrap it in a rag if I'm going to take a break or something, or else just throw it in the bucket. And in other words, I keep it wet until I've reached that final thickness, and that thickness is fairly thin. The inside profile matches the outside profile, so it's an even thickness. And then it dries at an even rate, shrinks at an even rate, and doesn't crack. The way it's been done for literally thousands of years. Knowing the material, knowing the characteristics, the strengths and weaknesses of a material is what it's called being a tradesman. As a tradesman who works with this material of wood, it's my job to know that and know how it works, how the wood lives, how the wood dies, how it shrinks, how it swells, and what happens to it. Wood doesn't come from a lumber yard, we all know that. It comes from trees, and it comes soaking wet, and it's going to dry on you, and it's going to shrink when it dries. So you need to keep that in mind and manipulate that as a tradesman. You have to know that. Start shaping the rim of this bowl. Working from what's going to be the rim.
What are you making?
Making a wooden bowl.
And of course, I gotta show you one of the mini streets. Oceans and oceans of people. Where do they come from? That's just one of 10 streets. Now we're in the senior center with the wood carvings from the seniors. See what they got here. It's a gnome with a silver beard. Oops, sorry. Come up here.
I don't think so.
Wood turning. More turn-ins.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wooden toy making. That was an excellent wood turning right there. Major award. Got quilts here too, and here's an interesting one. Put on a Santa. Sort of a hodgepodge of different shapes, patterns. I like that leaf pattern. Put that on your Santa. There's some more wood turning. Some full view there. And here's some nice scroll sawing. More scroll sawing. Oops. Some more over here. Back without stepping on somebody's feet.
Flavored coffee, so he'll drink whatever the coffee is. Yeah, we're gonna get used to it. She's gonna peel off that
Some more in Tarsha. There's a little wood burning clock. We'll come down to the gnome house. Pull out far enough. Probably zoom into some of the detail here. The other way. Closer. Back out. Some more scroll sawing. Here's a nice carving up here. Get those reflection. More scroll sawing. Interesting wood pattern in the background.
Oh yeah.
There's a nice clock. It's got a lot of carving. Sorry I can't hold that far enough. Look at some of the details. Here. Little flying buttresses. Only a pink. Interesting. Another entire shop. Here's a nice wood turn. I don't know, is that wood or is that porcelain? I don't know, that's too close, I'm not sure. Well, if that's what you're asking, how about this one here? You be the judge.
Before we leave.
Of course, it makes a good pattern. Good carving pattern. That's wood. Again, the loon, the Minnesota state bird. There is some beautiful scroll sawing. is, there's a clock. There's the clock. Is it wood design or something? Another wood design. Furniture design. A little bit of scroll sign. And there's our diamond willow stick. Or a diamond willow stick. Got plenty of it in Minnesota. Nice funky little top there. And here's another walking stick. Simple walking stick. And zoom in oh, there we go. So it's like that's part of the branch.
Our state fair is a great state fair. Don't miss it, don't even be late. It's dollars to don't